and I'm not sure why, because it doesn't normally happen, but I had two charities coming to my door, and I know charities are close to your heart. Two charities coming to my door, knocking on the door and asking for money. The first one was Save the Children, and the second one was Shelter, which is to do with homelessness. So for the first chap, who was very, by the way, both these people were very nice. And I always feel a bit guilty after they've gone because, I kind of take them to task. But the first chap said, "Oh, I'm collecting for Save the Children." So I said, right, and I said, what percentage of my donation will actually go to save the children? And he said, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "All right." And then I said, "Well, and what's your chief executive paid?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I don't know." And then I kind of went into a long, which is any observer would think this guy is just but I explained I pay a lot of tax, and I said, I pay my tax to the government to save the children. That's what I pay my tax for, isn't it? So I pay a lot of tax. Why do I now have to pay additional money to you? Now, with the fact you can't give me the answers to my first two questions, why do I have to pay additional money to you to do something that I expect society, the government that I pay my tax to do anyway? And of course, he didn't have an answer. With the Shelter lady, she was better. So she said 80%, or how accurate this is, I don't know, by the way. 80% goes to help the homeless. And then she said, I think the chief exec is on less than most chief execs in this. But I know that most chief execs in those charities earn about 200,000 a year, or probably more, maybe more than that.
Some more, some a bit less.
Yeah. So, but what she also said to me was since COVID, and I corrected her and I said, no, since lockdowns, because it's not COVID that's made this happen, is it? Since lockdowns, she said there's now 159,000 homeless children. And I said, well, that's terrible. But again, I said, I pay my tax, a lot of tax. I'm expecting that tax to make sure in my country there aren't any homeless children.
Yeah.
So why are you here? Because I said, what you're doing is enabling the government not to do what it should be doing, in my opinion. But then you and I talked afterwards, and I said there's 159,000 homeless children, and I'm just interested in your thoughts on that statistic, because I know you understand this area far better than I do.
Yeah.
So.
First of all, let me jump this point in. You don't pay your taxes to help homeless children, and you don't pay your taxes to save the children. You pay your taxes because if you didn't, you'd end up in jail.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
That's why we all pay our taxes, because most people, PAYE, you don't even see that money. The government steals it off you before you even get it.
Yes. Yeah.
And for business people, you pay it every year with the threat of jail if you don't.
Yeah.
Now, we hope the government will do some good things with that money to steal off us.
Yes.
And I rarely come across somebody who resents paying tax. They resent paying as much tax as they do, and they resent their tax money being wasted.
Yes.
But most decent people I come across don't resent paying a certain level of tax, because we live in a great country. It needs servicing. People are not doing as well as us. They need helping. So, yeah.
I think the concept of tax.
Yeah.
You're right. Most people don't have an issue with the concept of tax. It's how much it is and where it's spent, I think, is the point.
Yeah.
But just going on back to your, I'll let you carry on. But just going, I have started recently to think that tax, like you, is stealing. I think tax, because it's an interesting concept, isn't it? It's basically legalized theft is tax, especially if the money isn't spent as you would hope or expect it to be spent. So, sorry, your first point, about the tax, totally agree,
Let's have another conversation about tax another time.
It's a big issue.
It's a big issue.
Yeah.
But going back to those two charities. So first of all, is there 159,000 homeless children in the UK due to the lockdown or since the lockdown? The first question is, what do you mean by homeless children? See, the word homeless is very emotive. So when people use the word homeless, you don't know if they mean living on the streets or have unfit accommodation. Now, I can 100% say not one child is living on the streets in the UK. Not one. And if one was, the head of children's services in that area would probably lose their job. So a child never sleeps on the street. Social services would take that child immediately. Police officers would pick that child up and be phoned up. That child wouldn't be on the streets. So there is no rough sleeping children in the UK.
Right.
Now, homelessness means a dozen things. Technically, the government definition of homelessness. So if you're living at your dad's house sleeping in a settee, your class is homeless.
Really?
If you have children and your central heating doesn't work in your house, you're all classed as homeless. If you're overcrowded, your house technically sleeps 5, but you've got 7. All 7 of you are now classed as homeless. All these add to the homeless figures. If you're living in a B&B paid for by the council, you're homeless. Living in a homeless hostel, a refuge, homeless. So when you see the overarching number of, 1 million people are homeless in the UK, 99.999% of them have a roof over their head every night. But the way they're living is classed as homeless.
I see.
So charities and councils and governments and special positions play with this word. So you never know what it means, because it means everything. So there probably is 159,000 homeless children in the UK, but like I say, none of them are living on the streets.
Do you think she knew that when she said that to you?
No.
Right, so she's just been given that figure.
Those people who work for charities like that are given the standard half a dozen selling points.
Right.
And most people who are doing door-to-door or standing in the street and getting people to sign up for charities, they're on something like 25% commission.
Wow.
So if you signed up or whatever you gave, they get 25% of it. If you sign a direct debit, they get 25% for the first year.
Wow.
So
that could be a lot.
It can be a lot.
Yeah.
It's their job to raise money. And if it's your job, you expect to be paid. There's nothing wrong in paying people who work for charities. We pay nurses, we pay doctors, we don't expect them to work for free. So why would we expect people who work for charities to work for free? Unless you're a volunteer. But if you're doing something really important for charity, you need paying. And it's perceived they're doing a valuable job because they're bringing in money, so they get paid. But they don't tell you their commission, they don't tell you they're being paid.
Perhaps that's an additional question for me to ask next
time.
Yeah.
And then when you ask her how much of this money is going to help homeless people, or 80%, that needs digging into. So part of the answer will be, well, all staff costs are helping homeless people. Our office costs, if we don't have offices, we couldn't help anybody. So all this is included in to help the homeless people.
Yeah.
What's normally taken out of it is marketing. And one or two other things maybe taken out of it, but everything you think that won't be included is included in that.
Including salaries and everything.
All of it, because that's all helping the homeless people. If you looked at a charity like Shelter and got them to drill down, so out of all this money, what actually goes to those individuals? The answer would be zero, because Shelter doesn't give money to people. Shelter is creating projects, doing stuff to create the right environment to help people. So it's a really hard thing to define, hence why they're always wishy-washy about it.
Yeah.
Because the general public couldn't understand that nothing really goes to the homeless people. But if they didn't create a shelter, those homeless people would have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So it's very complicated, but people dislike charities quite a bit. The huge charities, the multinational charities, like Shelter, Save the Children, all those ones, Oxfam, are absolutely huge. They're multi-billion-pound charities.
Yeah.
I actively tell people don't donate to those big charities.
Yeah. Because
a lot of your money is not wasted per se, but you're basically funding a multinational.
Yeah.
And their CEO will be on $250,000.
Yeah.
Oxfam's got private jets. Oxfam is that classy. When they were helping in Haiti, their staff were raping women. In Africa, they were having sex with children. This is the staff we're paying Oxfam to send to those places of abusing the natives in those places. So these huge multinational charities absolutely don't ever give them your money. If you want to help a charity, I tell people all the time, help local and help small. So find out what's important to you. Is it cancer? Is it children? Is it animals? I hate people giving all their money to animals, but it's your money, you can do what you want with it. Find a small local charity that does frontline work, that will rescue animals, not just do campaigns about it.
They're actually doing something in your area. And you
In
can
your
actually see the
local area,
tangible,
in the northwest, or in the country, and who are doing actual work on the ground, and you can fund them. And they will spend some of that money on wages, but so they should, because that's what gets the work done.
Yeah.
But if you're sending your money to the big nationals, it's something like 80% of all charity donations in the UK, something like 90% of the donations go to 10 charities.
I mean, I've actually stopped giving money to charities, but that's only because all my views have changed in the last probably not 5 or 6 years, I'd say. I think just they were just changing before the lockdowns. The lockdowns kind of solidified all my thought processes, and I've started to question everything now. So all the things. So we had a number of charities we would give to on a monthly basis. You know, we will be doing all the right things then, but charities are kind of one of the casualties of for me in that, because I started asking the questions you're just talking about, and maybe uncovering exactly the same things. And of course, you then see the publicity about Oxfam and what happened in Uri and Haiti and all those horrific things, and you realise a lot of this is just absolute bullshit you're being fed by so many people about these things.
It is, and there's not all charities, because I've worked with some amazing charities.
Yeah.
The smaller they are, the better it seems to be. But when you start getting bigger charities, this is harsh now. It becomes a con. So here's a good example. So Save the Children. So children charities, as they get big, will say, we've got 100,000 children living in poverty. And that sounds awful, because we all can imagine what poverty is like.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you define poverty?
Yeah.
The government definition of poverty, one of the strands of poverty now in the UK for a child, is no access to a smartphone.
Right, is it?
So if you've got, I know adults who won't buy their children smartphones. So technically they're living in poverty.
Yeah.
And what these charities always do is, when they start looking like they're getting close to solving the issue they're set up to do, they then move the goalposts.
Yeah.
So who can go against ending child poverty? Hungry children, living in destitute, holes in the clothes, not having a winter coat. We should be solving that, and we have solved that.
Yeah.
Then the charities go, oh, we've solved that. You're just going to pay my wages, you're just going to pay my pension. Do you know what? Let's now say child poverty now is, if you don't, this is true as well, don't have a foreign holiday every year.
Yeah.
Now we've got 500,000 children living in poverty in the UK. We can carry on for another 2 decades. If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.